Hi dolls. I recently came across the Billie Eilish doll and I really liked the head sculpt. I bought the head off AliExpress as she was going to get a head transplant onto an MTM body anyway. These are factory rejects, so I knew right off the bat I was getting a wonky head. I watched Bob and Atelier struggle with her paint removal process, but foolishly thought I could somehow get around that. Well, I couldn't. When I am telling you this was hard, it is an understatement. Just be very careful, as this type of vinyl does deteriorate with acetone and you might just burn a hole in your face like I did. After trying everything, I found that leaving a bit of acetone on the paint and scrubbing gently but firmly with a Q-tip did the job. After an actual eternity, I managed to get most of the paint off, but some areas around her eyes did end up getting ruined, so I had to send her. I must say, her hair was extremely soft, but alas, it had to go. I removed everything, only to discover that the neck hole was specifically designed to fit onto her own body. But we will tackle this later. As I was still in the testing phase, I decided to go with a cold platinum blonde as it fit her skin tone best. I'm going to save you the rerouting process for the sake of your sanity. Here you can see the hole I burned with the acetone. I took a very fine block of sandpaper and sanded it smooth. Onto the face up. I wanted to try laying the base with no sealing as I saw other YouTubers do it. So I began by contouring and blushing her face ever so gently with soft pastels. I began by laying down the foundation of her eyes with the lightest brown pencil I have. For the eyebrows, I drew them quite high up, but not very arched, as I wanted to keep her looking youthful. I mapped out where everything was going to go in brown pencil. You'd think that with a doll this detailed, there'd be very few ways to fuck up, but you'd be wrong. In some parts, I had to work with the face sculpts instead of against it like I usually do with Barbies. I gave her eyes a side glance as usual. I sprayed her with MSC and proceeded on to the next layer, where I could finally build some intensity. And here's a little trick. Use dull pencils whenever you want to buff out a color and blend it out, as sharp pencils can only give you, well, sharp lines. I gave her a pink smoky eye and blended it out with soft pastels. Her eyeliner was an important part of the face-up, so I drew it on pretty early. Before sealing, I used watered down white acrylic paint on the whites of the eyes and I cut the crease with it as well. I went over her eyelids with a pink pencil to intensify the color. For the eyebrows, I went with short strokes to emulate little hairs. I highlighted the brow bone with white. I intensified her eyeshadow with soft pastels. Then I used the same soft pastels to blush her face. I worked on her, I pictured her looking glowy, peachy and young, so I gave her quite intense blushing. This was my third layer, so I could finally start working on the small details, such as the depth of her eyes. A lot of it did get lost in the layers, but I think the end result still looks nice regardless. I intensified the white of her eyes once again before sealing. For the lip color, I wanted a peachy pink, but got coral instead. I applied it only to remove and change her lip color afterwards. I did keep the original lip shape though, as I really liked her pouty look. As I was near the end, I could finally add her eyeliner with acrylic paint, which really framed the eye. From this point on, it was just a matter of trying to make everything as even and intense as I wanted it to be. I drew on 3 pairs of bottom lashes, 2 on each of the corners and 1 in the middle. I added glossy varnish to her eyelids and sprinkled on some nail art fine glitter. I then pressed it in with Q-tips. The last step was glossing her eyes and lips with glossy varnish. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, she'll be rebodied onto a made-to-move Barbie body. The only problem is that her neck hole is too far inside. So I wrapped some wire around the neck peg, covered it entirely with tape, then wrapped an elastic band for grip and stability. This is not my finest work, but I was already too far into this project to think of alternatives and I just wanted to get it over with. But in the end, it worked out just fine. For the lashes, I cut up 3 small pieces of foam ink lashes and glued them in the opposite corners and middle. And I painted her nails with the glitter from before mixed with glossy varnish. I gave her a headband by taking these old headphones and cutting the two ends. Then, I glued this cotton ribbon around the base and glued the ends underneath. And I glued the ends together to prevent fraying. For her choker, I glued a strip of rhinestones onto a pink ribbon which will tie in the back. Now, I got her dress off a seller on eBay, but it was too frumpy for my doll, and I could do with a few centimeters off the bottom, plus the stitching wasn't great. So I took to my sewing machine and altered the dress as needed. Now it's time for the reveal. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and comment telling me what you would like to see next. Make sure you also follow me on Instagram at DoDearWonderland. Thank you for following.